Burkina Faso's President Ibrahim. Traoré sat in the bright studio lights of the American broadcast. His posture calm but his eyes sharp. The program had begun like any other high-profile interview. Questions. About his leadership. About Africa's place in global politics. About his philosophy of independence. The panel of commentators leaned forward, expecting the usual exchange of polite words, strategic answers, and perhaps a few pointed remarks at the West. But what came next would leave not just the studio, but the entire audience across the globe in stunned silence. The host shifted uncomfortably in his chair, glancing at the producers behind the glass. He hesitated before asking, "Mr. President, we have to address the topic that has been circulating heavily in America, the tragic death of Charlie Kirk. Many questions remain unanswered. Do you, from your perspective, know anything that the world doesn't?" The question hung in the air. Some of the commentators smirked, assuming Traoré would brush it aside, perhaps call it an internal American affair. Instead, Traoré leaned forward, his voice lowered, deliberate, every word measured. "Yes," he said simply, "I know more than what has been told to the people, and it is time the truth is spoken." The studio froze. The host blinked rapidly, not sure whether to encourage him or cut to commercial. Traoré continued before anyone could interrupt. "You see," he began, "when a man is silenced, it is rarely because of one lone individual acting in isolation. It is because he touched a truth that powerful forces wanted buried. Charlie Kirk did not fall to random violence. His death was not a senseless act. It was calculated, deliberate, orchestrated." A gasp spread through the audience. One of the commentators shook his head violently, whispering to his colleague, "This is insane. He can't be serious." But Traoré's face carried no hint of exaggeration. He was calm, almost sorrowful, as if revealing a burden he had carried for too long. "Charlie Kirk," he continued, "was investigating something that connected international finance, corporate manipulation, and covert networks that span continents. What he uncovered threatened not only political figures in this country but also economic interests that reach into Africa, into Europe, into places most people never even think about. He was silenced because the truth he carried was too heavy for the ones who live in shadows." The host tried to regain control. "Mr. President, with respect, that is a very serious claim. Do you have any?" But Traoré raised a hand, a quiet authority that cut through the noise. "You ask for evidence," he said softly. "But look around you. Every time a voice rises to challenge the empire of lies, what happens? They vanish. They are discredited. Or worse, they are gone forever. Do you think this is coincidence? You call it conspiracy. I call it history repeating itself." The commentators fell silent. Some exchanged nervous glances. Others scribbled furiously in their notes. The viewers watching at home, on phones and televisions around the world, leaned closer to their screens. Traoré did not rush. He let his words sink in, then continued. "Charlie Kirk spoke often of freedom. Whether you agreed with him or not, he demanded that people question authority. That is dangerous to those who thrive in darkness. He was not killed by the hand of one man alone. He was killed by a system that fears light. And that system is not confined to America. It stretches everywhere, into my continent, into your institutions, into the very air we breathe." At that, the host's jaw dropped. "Are you suggesting international involvement?" Traoré's eyes hardened. "I am not suggesting. I am declaring." For a moment, there was nothing but silence. The studio audience sat motionless, the air thick with tension. It felt as though the ground itself had shifted, that some veil had been pulled away, and everyone was suddenly staring at a darker, more complicated reality. Traoré leaned back, folding his hands. "You Americans think you own the monopoly on truth, but truth belongs to no nation. It belongs to humanity. And when one of your own was eliminated because he came too close to it, you must ask yourselves, how many more will be silenced before you open your eyes?" The host stammered, "But, Mr. President, if what you say is true, then why reveal this here, now?" Traoré's reply was sharp, unwavering. Because truth is like fire. If you try to contain it, it only grows hotter. If you bury it, it burns deeper. I speak not to accuse, but to awaken. You can choose to dismiss me as a foreign leader interfering in your affairs. Or you can recognize that what happened to Charlie Kirk is not about left or right, conservative or liberal. It is about control. It is about power. And it is about fear. His words echoed in the silent studio. Even the cameramen, usually detached, seemed frozen behind their equipment. The commentators who had mocked him minutes earlier now looked pale, uncertain whether to challenge him or stay quiet. Traoré pressed on. In my country, we have buried too many voices silenced by foreign interests, by those who smile while they take, by those who preach democracy while selling chains. I have seen journalists disappear, activists silenced, and leaders corrupted. And yet, when it happens here, in America, you act surprised. Do you think you are immune? No. You are only now tasting what others have swallowed for decades. The audience erupted with murmurs. Some clapped, others shouted, but most just stared in disbelief. The host quickly signaled for calm, but the energy could not be contained. Traoré had touched a nerve deeper than politics. He had exposed or wound the world, preferred to ignore. Then, in one final statement that would echo across social media for weeks, Traoré said, Charlie Kirk's killer was not just a man. It was a machine built on greed, deception, and fear. And until you confront that machine, until you break it, you will never be free. Silence. The cameras captured every flicker of emotion. The stunned faces of the commentators. The trembling hands of the host. The wide eyes of the audience. Across the world, people paused mid-bite, mid-sentence, mid-scroll, trying to process what they had just heard. The broadcast ended abruptly. The producers cutting to commercial with shaky voices. But it was too late. The words had already spread. Clips of Traoré's revelation flooded the internet, sparking debates, outrage, admiration, and disbelief. Some called him a truth-teller, a fearless leader exposing the hidden hands of global power. Others labeled him a reckless foreign agitator, meddling in matters that were not his own. But regardless of opinion, one fact remained undeniable. The world had heard something it could not unhear. A veil had been lifted, and the image behind it was terrifying. In the days that followed, hashtags trended across platforms. Hashtag Truth Revealed. Hashtag Traoré Speaks. Hashtag Charlie Kirk Mystery. Analysts dissected every word. Journalists speculated. Governments issued cautious statements. But none could erase the power of that single moment, when a leader from Africa silenced a room in America with nothing but truth and conviction. For Traoré, it was never about fame or provocation. It was about principle, about honoring the silenced, about reminding the world that no matter how carefully secrets are hidden, one voice of courage can still shake the foundations of empires. And for those who watched, whether they believed him or not, one thought lingered long after the broadcast ended. What if he was right?